welcome to a new video. I want to talk in this video about addiction. Addiction is something that is very close to my heart because I suffered with it for so long. I know what it's like to go not only through addictions but through recovery, and sometimes the recovery process is just as worse, if not worse, than the actual addiction itself. So for me personally, when I drank alcohol, and I was an alcoholic for those who don't know, I was drinking upwards of 2/5 a day, sometimes more, sometimes in a very short period of time, and I used alcohol as a social lubricant because I had horrible social anxiety. And I used alcohol for so long in social situations that I got so accustomed to talking to people drunk that when I wasn't drunk, I felt even more anxious. I just felt horribly anxious. It was a really nasty cycle to be in. Getting yourself to a point where you have to poison yourself just to feel comfortable socializing with people, that is not a good place to be in. And it really drives the addiction too, ladies and gentlemen, because when you need a substance to feel confident when you communicate with people, what happens is that when you don't have that substance in your system, you feel just 10,000 times more anxious than you would if you were drunk. So you train yourself to get used to doing things in an intoxicated state. When you do that, it makes doing things sober that much more difficult because you're so used to, your body and your mind, your emotions, you name it, has become accustomed to doing things and operating, doing just basic functions, communication, you name it, drunk. I hope that makes sense. So I've gone through the pits of hell and back. I abused alcohol, drugs. I was smoking a lot of cigarettes at the time when I was an alcoholic. I was popping pills, smoking loads of cannabis. I wasn't just damaging myself with alcohol. It was kind of it was a melting pot of multiple different things. And out of the blue one night, after years of being an alcoholic and after a handful of strange experiences that led me to believe that it was time for me to quit drinking, I foolishly, in the midst of my alcoholism, decided to quit cold turkey. And when that happened, a handful of horrible things took place. It started with rapid heartbeat. It then commenced into massive states of delirium, hallucinations, tactile hallucinations, auditory hallucinations, seeing things move through walls, seeing spirits, being told I was being drugged into the pits of hell. I had it was not only a withdrawal, ladies and gentlemen, it was a paranormal experience. And this experience rocked me out of my alignment for years after it happened. It took me a long time to recover from chronic alcohol use. And I'm not trying to scare people by saying this. I don't want you to think that recovery is going to be some horrible process, because if you believe that, there's a good chance that you might continue to drink. For instance, oftentimes people will neglect quitting smoking cigarettes because of the withdrawals, because they can't have a bowel movement without nicotine, because they get brain fog, because they get irritable. So substances are really dangerous when they're addicting because they oftentimes create horrible withdrawals after your body and mind has gotten used to using them for a prolonged period. And when your body and your mind gets used to using something often, you become dependent on it. And when you stop consuming that particular substance, your body and your mind goes, what the fuck is going on? Where's that substance? And you experience horrible withdrawals. Not always horrible. I mean, obviously, withdrawal from nicotine is going to be a lot better than a withdrawal from chronic alcohol use. Nicotine, fortunately, for those of you who smoke and want to quit, is one of the most forgiving substances to quit, to stop using abruptly. You might have some agitation, you might not have a decent bowel movement for 3 weeks, and you might just have some brain fog. I know I did, but it's nothing like some of these harder drugs like benzodiazepines, Xanax, and it's nothing like alcohol. So I hope that my messages can come into your life at the right time and jar a response in you. I hope that these messages can indeed agitate a response in you, and I hope that it can make you question your path if you're currently an addict. I've had friends that have died from drug abuse and alcohol abuse, family members, and I've seen not only what it does to families, but I've seen what it does to myself personally. I've been there. You know, alcohol was never that appealing to me in high school. I mean, sure, I would drink some 40s with my friends, have some, beer. I got drunk on a handful of occasions, did stupid shit. I remember the first time I got really drunk, I was at a friend's house and just started beating the shit out of a garbage can to the point where my hand was just, I still have scars on my hand from punching that garbage can. I don't know if you guys can see these. There's a little scar right there, and there's one right here. And it was horrible for a long time. I mean, I graduated high school in 2007, and this was in my freshman year when this happened. But, that should have been my first sign that, okay, maybe I shouldn't be drinking. If I'm consuming something that makes me beat garbage cans to a bloody pulp and to the point where my hand is bloody, and I'm saying things that I, regret, maybe I shouldn't be consuming it. But you know how things go. When you have a traumatic experience with a substance, there's that period where you feel, guilt from doing what you do, and then over time you naturally feel gravitated to, okay, I think I can handle it this time, and so the wheel turns, ladies and gentlemen. There were so many times where I drank alcohol, did stupid shit. The stupid shit that I did created so much guilt that I felt motivated to quit. But over time, as you quit, you get this complex where it's like, okay, it's been a month. It's been a month. I think I can handle having a drink. I deserve a drink. I've been clean for a month. That's how these substances play a trick on you. That's how it would always... It's actually you playing a trick on yourself. I can't give credit to the substance here because the substance doesn't have an intelligence. It doesn't have a brain. It's you wanting to get a release or an escape, or maybe you like the feeling of being drunk or getting high. People need to stop blaming the substances for their problems. It's you engaging in the substance and not having the willpower that's creating the problem. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist here or be a dick, but it's true. We need to learn mental mastery. It's something that we were never taught, mental and physical mastery, in school. Where the hell was I going with this? Excuse me, folks. I was talking about how in high school, I never really liked alcohol. It wasn't until junior college that I started drinking a little bit more, and it wasn't until I dropped out of junior college that I started drinking heavily. It was, I believe, around the same time one of my family members got cancer and got sick, and died. And it had nothing to do, me drinking alcohol had nothing to do with like feeling bad or sad about this person passing me. Obviously, I loved this person, and I was horribly sad when he passed, but me drinking had nothing to do with this loss in the family, but it was around the same time. I remember we were having a family gathering shortly after he passed, I believe. This was a long time ago, so I'm a little rusty, ladies and gentlemen, so forgive me. But I believe we were having a family gathering during, while he was super sick, And I remember I was going on a store run to pick up groceries for everyone because the family was all back at his house. Beautiful house. And I walked down the alcohol aisle for some reason, and a bottle of Southern Comfort caught my eye. And for some reason, I was just like, you know what? I haven't drank in a long time. I'm going to give this a try again. I grabbed that bottle of booze and bought it, and ended up drinking half to 3/4 of it that night. And that's what started my alcoholism. I loved the numbing effect. It was like a legal opiate for me. It was like an escape. I'm the type of person that I really like to have my mind engaged in something. I don't really like... One of the reasons why I take herbs, ladies and gentlemen, is because it amps my mind up to the point where I can access certain parts of my mind that normally aren't accessed when I don't consume the herbs or the supplements. That's one of the reasons why I like consuming nature's herbs, is because nature's herbs, different supplements, you name it, allow you to unlock certain parts of your brain in your physiology that aren't unlocked when you're not consuming those things. And, you know, at the time, I was doing the same thing with drugs, unfortunately. I was doing the same thing with booze. I was using booze and drugs to put my mind in a different gear because I liked to be stimulated. I liked to look at things from different angles. I liked at the time to alter my consciousness. That's why I was using drugs, alcohol, I mean, pretty much anything that I can get my hands on. I was in a horrible place. So now, I mean, that may sound bad that I said that I like to consume herbs to access certain parts of my mind that aren't accessed when I'm not taking the herbs, but I take the herbs for health. I'm not taking them to get high. I'm consuming things to expand my health, to expand my mind, to grow, to be healthy, to be happy, to be wise. But when I was using drugs and alcohol, I mean, holy shit, I was using them. It was an escape. It was to put my mind in different gears and just to deal with my depression and my anxiety. So I drank that bottle of Southern Comfort and overnight became an alcoholic. I remember the night after that, I went to a liquor store in California, a particular liquor store where I became a frequent frequent customer there. To buy some vodka because I knew that the remainder of Southern Comfort wasn't going to last me through the night. And so my journey into alcoholism began, and before you knew it, or before I knew it, I was drinking during the day, I was drinking when I woke up, I was drinking, you know, I would keep a bottle of booze under a pillow next to me, and I would wake up, if I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I wasn't drunk enough when I woke up, I would grab the bottle, take some chugs, and go right back to bed. I was a chronic insomniac at the time too, ladies and gentlemen, and alcohol, one of the things I loved about alcohol was that I could drink to the point where I just passed out. I mean, I was a painter at the time. I was painting houses. That's what I did for a living. And I was an insomniac because my mind never shuts the fuck up. I have such a hyper-stimulated mind that my mind, even though my body is exhausted and wants sleep, my mind constantly wants to learn and constantly just wants to be awake. It's taken me a long time to figure out the whole insomnia thing to the point where I can fall asleep before 12 o'clock at night so I can get a good night's rest. But for the longest time, I mean, if I wasn't drinking, I would stay up until like 3 in the morning and have to get up at 6 in the morning to go to work and to paint houses, and it was very challenging on my body physically because that's not an easy job. There were times where I was using a pressure washer with a 10-foot attachment on it and it was just physically challenging. Painting these 2 to 3 story houses, having to clean them and pressure wash them to get all the smut off of them so that the paint would adhere, and then rolling the paint and just cutting into all the edges and doing all that. And when I started drinking, I could at least fall asleep by like 11:30 at night and then wake up around 5:30. But that played its toll on me as well because you never really get good sleep when you drink alcohol, ladies and gentlemen. The sleep is constantly interrupted. You just don't remember it because you're drunk, and you never really enter the deepest stages of REM 3 and 4, rapid eye movement stages of sleep, which are the most regenerative states of sleep when you're drunk. But I did get a placebo effect over the fact that, you know, when I woke up, I'd say to myself, wow, I got 7 to 8 hours of sleep. This is great. But over time, the placebo kind of wore off, and I was feeling just as fatigued. In fact, I felt more fatigued from drinking alcohol to fall asleep. Even though I slept for 7 to 8 hours, I would feel like shit. And then I looked it up, and lo and behold, you don't really get good quality sleep when you're drunk, ladies and gentlemen. It's one of the factors that actually drives hangovers, is lack of rest. And in no way, shape, or form is the entire reason behind it, but it is one of them. So I drank some Southern Comfort after a long period of abstinence from alcohol and really loved the numbing effect. I loved the I don't give a fuck mentality that it gave me. It made me feel more bold and daring and confident, even though I was a total fool. I did a lot of stupid shit. I got kicked out of bars. got into fights. There were countless evenings, ladies and gentlemen, where I'd go to the bar drunk with like $200 or $300 in my wallet, and then wake up the next morning. There was one time where I spent, I don't know what happened to the money. You spent like $200 to $300 at the bar somehow. I don't know if I gave it to someone, a homeless person, or some of that stupid shit you do when you're drunk and you just feel like anything you can get away with anything. And I'm not saying that giving $300 to a homeless person is stupid, but when you don't have a lot of money yourself, I think you can connect the dots. But there was one period where I woke up at a friend's house after being at the bar pretty much all night, getting wasted, and I just assumed that there was the money at $200 to $300 in my wallet. And I went out to go buy breakfast, and I remember telling the person, I want this, I want that, I'll have two of these, you blah blah blah, and then going to pay and opening my wallet and there not being a single dollar in that wallet, and just going, what the fuck happened? What the hell did I do? And on top of that, I wasn't even truly upset that I lost the money. I was upset that I didn't have enough money to continue drinking that night. So I had to go home and I started using my change. I had a piggy bank, a Sobe bottle that I had put quarters in for years. And that was like a treasure chest to me. Without $300, that Sobe bottle, I dried it out real quick. But I remember thinking, oh God, thank you. There was always this, or God, thank you, I still have some money to buy some booze. I remember that going through my mind. There was always this evil energy when I was drinking, where even when I had no resources to drink, a solution would come to that, and I would find a way. And what I mean by that is, like, when I had no money, even when I drained my piggy bank, there was always, money somewhere else hidden in my room. There was always a way to get booze. There was always this evil energy throughout the entire experience of me being an alcoholic, where even if I hit rock bottom financially and didn't feel like I had any money to buy alcohol, some type of solution would come, and we can't really call it a solution because a solution almost implies a resolving of a problem. This was more of I don't even know how to explain it. I think you catch my drift though. Money would always come up somehow. And I remember whenever I would find the money, I would sense this sense of evil. Like something was like always watching my back from an evil perspective and showing me ways to continue drinking. And it wasn't until I had my first experience with severe alcohol hallucinosis, when I quit drinking, alcohol-induced hallucinations and withdrawals, that I realized that there actually was an evil force behind my drinking. Addictions are a spiritual thing, ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe it or not. There's a lot more going on in an addiction than meets the eye. Addictions are stepping stones for growth also. If you're an addict and you're watching this video, you have a very valid platform to grow out of, ladies and gentlemen. This is the moist soil for your evolution. You can grow out of whatever you're in right now. And if you are an alcoholic, you need to make an appointment with a doctor, make an appointment with a professional medical specialist who specializes in alcoholism and addiction recovery. I may not agree with a lot of Western medicine, but when it comes to addiction recovery and the options that they have, the pharmaceutical drugs that they have to keep your heart rate lowered when you're going through withdrawals or to keep you stable, Western medicine has some very valid tools when it comes to addiction recovery. Don't be a fool. Don't be stupid. You owe it to yourself. I know you love yourself, so make an appointment with a doctor and fix your life. I eventually made an appointment with a doctor to have my liver looked at and just to talk to this person. It helps so much. Moral of the story, I don't want to babble too much. Talking to the doctor put a lot of ease to my mind, because she knew how she could see what I was going through and the trauma I was going through. My entire family could. And what a dark hole. I just had this wave of almost, I just had like a flash in my mind's eye of some certain situations that happened while I was drinking. There are certain times, ladies and gentlemen, my addiction, I was so drunk for so long that I've forgotten a lot of what I've done. And there are times where certain things that I'm talking about or thinking about or whatnot will trigger certain memories that I've repressed. And I'll have like a flashback of certain things that I did when I was intoxicated. And wow, was I in a dark hole. I am so thankful to be alive. Because I wasn't just given a second chance. I was given 2,000 second chances. There were so many times during my addiction, or can't call it a journey. There were so many occasions while I was an addict where I pleaded and begged for my life. And it wasn't just related to alcoholism, it was also related to drugs. I came close to death's door with drugs as well. I remember so many times just begging God for a second chance, and then getting the second chance. I would make deals with God in my mind. I'd say, if you let me live, higher power, if you let me live, I'll quit drinking. And then once the fear of the experience wore off, I would go right back to drinking. Because there were periods where I had strange experiences. Before I had withdrawals, ladies and gentlemen, that were horrible, I had strange experiences with alcohol as well, where I would drink a lot and my heart rate would skyrocket, and I would start sweating, and I would have panic attacks while I was drinking, and I always thought that was me dying from overconsumption of alcohol. And every time that happened, I would beg the higher powers, I would beg God, whatever you want to call it, for a second chance. And I always got that second chance, but once the fear of the panic wore off, I would go back to drinking. It's really easy to make agreements with yourself. It's easy to make plans to change when you're afraid, but when you don't have that fear moving through you, it's really easy to be numb, so to speak. And that sense of being numb from the truth of what you're actually doing to yourself is very dangerous. Fear is a very good thing if you're an addict. You need to embrace the fear. If you have strange experiences, you just need to change, ladies and gentlemen. Fear was something that it would motivate me to change. All these panic attacks, and I would drink so much that I would lack sleep for so long, and I would do so much exhausting things when I was drunk that I would have like these paranoid states of delusion that would come through me and cause panic. And every time it happened, I thought I was dying, and I would beg God for forgiveness and make plans to change. And every time I thought I would actually do it, I ended up going back to drinking. But it wasn't until I decided to quit cold turkey one night, after some strange experiences that motivated me to do so, that I really got hit with the dose of fear that I needed. The injection of fear into my consciousness that I needed to feel motivated to change. Because, every time you ask for a second chance, ladies and gentlemen, and you're given a second chance, if you don't embrace that second chance and you go back to what you were doing, the next time you ask for a second chance, it gets worse. And that's what happened to me. It was like I was climbing a ladder or knocking over dominoes, and it got to the point where when I actually quit drinking alcohol, my withdrawals were so fucking terrifying and so vivid and so real and so alien, so strange. It terrified the hell out of me. It terrified me beyond my mind and beyond my flesh. It terrified my spirit. It terrified my soul. Got a little bit of hibiscus here. Great for lowering blood pressure. Great for lowering blood pressure, and it's got a pretty interesting natural vitamin C profile. It's a great tonic for people to consume if they have blood pressure issues. What's the moral of the story here, ladies and gentlemen? The moral of the story is that addictions are dangerous, and so many people suffer from addiction. How do you move away from addictions? There's no magic bullet, or magic pill, there's no simple solution to addiction, because it requires a massive amount of effort on your part. Every person who's addicted to something usually wants to quit, even if they repress that particular feeling. Most people who suffer from addictions don't want to be addicted. It ruins their lives financially, it ruins their relationships, it makes them feel unhealthy, it depletes your vigor and your vitality. It makes you weak. And no one wants to be weak, but addictions can be so attractive due to the escape that they allow us to feel that many people will neglect all the warning signs, and even though they know they don't want to do what they're doing, they continue to do it because that chase of that high and that relief that you get is so profound that it supersedes all logical thinking and rational action towards quitting or just doing what's right. There is no simple solution that I can give you, ladies and gentlemen. I can do my best to inspire you to do what's right, but it's up to you. The key is in your hand. People ask me all the time, what is the easiest way to quit drinking? What is the easiest way to do this? You have to, every fiber of your being has to be behind you quitting. That is the key. Every single ounce of who you are has to want to quit. Because if you have one foot in and one foot outside and one side, if you have, how would I explain this? If you have 1 foot inside and 1 foot outside, for instance, if you go and you open your front door and you stand in between the door jamb and part of your body is outside or in the front yard and part of you is on the inside of the living room, excuse me, I'm trying to give you guys a metaphor. All of you has to be inside, is what I'm getting at. You can't have 1 foot dabbling in the world of addiction and your other foot dabbling in trying to be responsible. It's very difficult. You've got to summon all of your efforts into channeling all of your energy and directing it towards addiction recovery. And it's very uncomfortable for most people, and that's why most people find it easier to remain addicted. Because not only do addictive substances enamor your mind and hypnotize you because it feels so good, but you get this evil sense of addictions oftentimes encumber your spirit with this evil energy that kind of motivates you to continue doing what you're doing. And I know I don't want to get too spiritual in this, ladies and gentlemen. I want to keep the mechanisms of addiction somewhat simple, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, based on all the near-death experiences that I've had, the paranormal experiences I've had, the occult experiences, seeing ghosts, communicating with spirits, experiencing Kundalini, and seeing into the fiber of the various dimensions that are around us and within us, I know that there's more to addictions than meets the eye. And there is a spiritual element to this. I remember when I quit, finally, I quit because the experience of withdrawal was so scary. I saw spirits. Every time I would close my eyes, I would see geometric patterns rotating in different directions that were so vivid, it was like I was there. I was transported to Egypt at one point, into the Great Pyramid, and it was just like this kaleidoscope. You know those projectors like in high school? I don't know if they still use them because they're probably more advanced now, but in high school, when I was in high school, we had these projectors that would cast an image on the projector wall, and there was like this donut-shaped metal box, cylindrical box kind of thing, I don't know what the hell I'm saying, that had slides in it. And you'd click a button, the teacher would click a button, and it would change the projector, what was being projected on the wall, because it would shift to the next slide. That was like what would happen when I would close my eyes. I would be in Egypt in one moment, and then I'd be in Moscow. Then I would be inside of a star tetrahedron, and then I would be I would just be surrounded by flames and feel the heat of the flames. The hallucinations were so vivid. They were so real that it burned an impression, an engram so deep into my soul that I'm still working on recovering from it. I'm still recovering from addiction, ladies and gentlemen. There were certain things that I saw and certain things that I experienced during my withdrawals that I'll carry with me forever. But I can learn from them, and I've become privy to that, and I've used these experiences as a stepping stone for my own growth and as a way to inspire other people to get the fuck out of their addictions, because addictions can kill you. Not only can they kill you physically, they can just snuff out the vitality of your spirit, your soul. They can turn you into a zombie, a beggar, a thief. I became a thief. I would steal my parents' money. I would steal my dad's change that he collected. I stole at one period. My brother used to brew beer, and my neighbor paid him to brew a special batch of beer with like these expensive ingredients. And the process of brewing beer takes some time. It's not like you just one night create some beer and it's done. There's like a process to it. I don't know how it works, but there's a process to it. And I remember once that beer was almost ready for my brother to give it to my neighbor, I fucking went into there, and he had a refrigerator, a little mini refrigerator in the garage at the time at the California house. And I opened that refrigerator, and I filled up mason jar after mason jar from that pony keg and drank that beer. Do you know what it's like to look at your brother? My brother has been an incredible person. Loves me unconditionally. I couldn't ask for a better brother. He is incredible. My brother and I have become so close. He's my best friend. But do you know what it's like to put him in that situation where my neighbor paid my brother to make this stuff, and my brother put all this love and effort in the ingredients, and like brewing alcohol is an alchemy. My brother's an alchemist. And to see the look on my brother's face when he went to give him that keg and to see it was empty. And to look him in the face for the longest period, it was just horrible. I hurt a lot of people emotionally when I was a drunk, especially those that were closest to me. And it's put a scar on my soul because I can never go back and change what happened. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of what I did in this video because some things need to be personal, and some of these things are so extreme and traumatic that I don't know if I can talk about them on camera right now. There was one point where I was so violent with someone that I had to have a gun put to my head because these people thought I was going to kill someone, and I had to be tied up with rope and bound to a tree by rope, ladies and gentlemen, until I got sober. I did a lot of stupid shit. When I was a drunk, I was either a love bug or I was a violent, dangerous individual that could flip switches from nice to hateful at any moment. And it wasn't just hate. It was pure rage. Pure, unadulterated rage. Murderous rage, folks. I am so thankful that I didn't hurt someone, including myself, to the point where I lost. I think I reflect about it often. It's like, what would have happened if I killed someone while I was drunk? I'd be in jail right now. There are so many things that if I think about deeply, I'm so thankful for. I'm grateful for the fact that somehow, some way, in the midst of the insane, rage-filled intoxication, I was drunk for years, basically. I am so thankful that I not only didn't destroy my body, but didn't destroy someone else's. To take a loved one for someone because I was drunk, or who knows what people do, insane shit when they're drunk, ladies and gentlemen. I am so thankful that I didn't get in a car. That's one thing I never really did, was drive drunk. I drove drunk, I think, once in my life, and I ended up regretting it. It was horrible. Having to close one eye because I was seeing like double, not even double, triple. And I remember I eventually got out and, just ended up walking the duration. Even Even amongst the how much I drank, I never, I never really drove. I knew better than that. Not that that's a good thing or anything that I knew better, because clearly I didn't know better. I didn't know, I wasn't, Jesus Christ, excuse me. I didn't know better, blah, blah. I didn't know enough to not drink. Well, I knew. What am I saying? I just chose not to. There is no magic fix to this, folks. It's going to require all the effort. All the effort is on you. Excuse me. You're going to have to summon effort. You're going to want. You have to want to quit. But it can't just be like, oh, I really want to quit, or I want to quit, but maybe. Or what am I trying to say? Excuse me. I need some coffee. There can't be a but or a by the way. Your entire body, mind, and soul has to be aligned towards you quitting. Otherwise, if you have one foot in and one foot out, like I said earlier, you will probably relapse. Maybe you'll quit for a month, maybe a week, maybe a year, but there's always that chance that you'll go back to it. So for me personally, I was so stubborn with alcoholism and ignoring all the signs that I had to quit that I literally had to go through the worst forms of withdrawals to feel motivated to quit. My soul had to be terrified. I went into a dimension that is so alien and so frightening and so hellish that I never want to wind up there again. How sad is that? That I had to be thrown into the pits of hell, basically, in these realms of consciousness that I entered from withdrawals were, there was a hell realm. It was a mental hell. I had to be thrown into these realms to feel motivated to quit. So in all honesty, I'm not a perfect example of how to even quit because I ignored all the signs. It's not like I sat down one day and was like, okay, I'm going to quit and created a plan. No, my quitting is built upon a foundation of ignoring all the second chances and ignoring all the warning signs to the point where I had the worst withdrawals ever, and only then did I see the rationale or the reasoning behind quitting. I am not an example, ladies and gentlemen, on a methodology on how to quit. All I can do is relay to you that I don't want you to end up where I went, because it is not a safe place to go into those realms of your mind, to go into those dimensional wavelengths. There were spirits walking around the house. I was experienced a lot of this at my girlfriend at the time's house that I'm no longer with because of alcohol and the trauma that I brought upon her. Shocking. But the hell was I getting at? I experienced a lot of withdrawal, though. I experienced a lot of the withdrawals in her home, and it was beyond trippy. I hate that word, but it's true. I took a trip into a different dimension. I took a trip through hell. There were spirits walking around the house. My heartbeat was so loud that she could hear it from across the room, believe it or not. There was a strange purple rash that swam around my body as I looked at myself in the mirror. It was like this alien parasite that was sucking my energy. I could hear demonic children, carnival sounding music in my head, and I could hear these spirits surrounding me. I could tell that there was a group of them around me because they would all talk back and forth about me while I was in the center of them. And they were talking about what they were going to do to me when they actually got me to hell, and that's where they were taking me. They were talking about how I was having a prolonged heart attack as my heartbeat was pounding, or my heart was pounding. I was sweating. I was again having the rash move across my body, the bags under my eyes that were almost black. It was horrible. My family couldn't recognize me. I came really close to death. And when you're experiencing a withdrawal and you hear spirits talking about how they're taking you to hell, and it's backed up by visual, tactile, and auditory hallucinations, as well as massive delirium and delusional thinking, it doesn't make the recovery process that much better because it stimulates the panic centers. So not only was I terrified of the fact that I felt the way I did while I was going through the withdrawals, I felt like hell, but my heartbeat was pounding so hard that I thought I was having a heart attack. And due to the fact that I thought I was having a heart attack, I stimulated the panic centers in my head, which accelerated my heart even more. And on top of that, I heard spirits talking around me, and I also saw them. On top of that, I had massive liver swelling, and I could see purple rash moving across my body. So all of these different compounding things, manifested in this one singular experience of withdrawal that was fucking terrifying. And on top of that, I didn't sleep for about a week. I would sleep like 20 minutes every 4 hours, maybe that. Maybe, I don't even think that much, to be honest. Because I was so afraid that I would go to sleep and not wake up. And what's really hellish about alcohol withdrawals, ladies and gentlemen, if you have extreme ones like I did, is that when you close your eyes to try to get sleep, the experience becomes worse. So there's no escape. There's no way out of it. You feel like even if you close your eyes, the hallucinations would get even worse. The auditory hallucinations, the tactile hallucinations would get worse. Which, for those who don't know, tactile hallucinations is when you feel something that actually isn't there. Even though I do believe that those things were there, those bugs and things that were crawling on me, they're just not physically based. They're more of a fourth and fifth dimensional spiritual thing. So you try to close your eyes, you do whatever you can to try to escape the hell that you're going through, but even the escape route makes it worse. So you're trapped, and that's what it feels like. It's a hell trap. But the only benefit that comes from these experiences is the fact that they can motivate you to change. You better embrace it if you've experienced these experiences. The only thing that actually brought some relief, I was going to say mild relief, but it was actually much more than mild relief, ladies and gentlemen, was taking showers. And I've talked about this in previous videos here on my channel. I don't know if you guys have, I have a massive amount of videos on alcoholism and addiction recovery in my video archive. So if this is your first video watching me talk about alcoholism and it has motivated you, go into my video archive and type in alcohol and addiction. And there are a ton of videos. In fact, I'm going to put together a playlist and put all of them in that playlist. I've put these videos together to not only vent about the experiences that I've gone through, but the main reason is to try to motivate people to change their lives for the better so that they don't have to go through what I've gone through and what other people go through. I don't want to see you die. I don't want to see you do irreversible damage to your lungs, your liver, you name it. So it's time to wake up. Use this video as a wake-up call. But I've mentioned the shower thing in only a couple of these videos about addiction, and I should really emphasize it more because the thing about the showers, ladies and gentlemen, is that it was like a little incubator. Excuse me. It was like a little egg, a nest that I could escape in, where the water felt really good. It was calming to my muscles, and when you can calm your muscles, your mind kind of mirrors that state of relaxation because the muscles are intimately connected through the mind through something known as muscle memory and a handful of other mechanisms that we're not going to get into in this video. But I'd go into the shower with the lights off and I would light a fucking candle, a white candle, and put it on the counter so I had some light, and I would sit in that dark shower and I would sit in a ball or sit on my butt with my hands or my knees up towards my chest and put my arms around my legs, and I would just let that filtered water hit my head, and it felt so good to sit in the dark. It was almost like a womb of sorts, and that's really what that shower kind of represented, I think, in a weird way. I remember feeling like when I was in that shower, I was in this womb, I was being reborn as a different person, and that's really what was actually happening, ladies and gentlemen, because I was actually becoming a new person through this withdrawal experience. I was becoming a sober human. It was like I was becoming a new person. I was going through a rebirth process. And I would sit in that shower and I would pray. I would do visualizations on myself. I talked about this in my first video on alcoholism that I ever produced called How I Got Through Extreme Alcohol Withdrawals and Delirium Tremens. Everyone should watch that if you haven't already seen that. I think it's over an hour long. It's basically something that I put together for people who are going through withdrawals and need something to watch to provide them some comfort. I talked about the showers. I would take pink Himalayan salt. I would sit in the shower for long enough for my fingers to be pruned, and then I would turn the shower off when I was nice and warm in the shower, and I would take a towel and kind of put it up in the shower steam vent so that the shower would stay somewhat warm. I would block some of the flow of the steam going out so my body would stay warm, and then I would take pink Himalayan salt and I would put it all over my body, and then I would just sit there naked with the salt on my body and close my eyes and imagine all the minerals not only going into my body, but the salt pulling all the negativity out of my soul, because these experiences that I went through with alcohol withdrawals were so frightening on the spiritual level. That's really what motivated me to quit. It was what I saw and what I experienced in the spiritual realm. I felt that my soul was going to hell. I fear not that which can kill me as much as I fear that which can snuff out my soul, ladies and gentlemen. And I was given a first-class ride into the pits of mental hell. I was like a lost satellite drifting through the realms of insanity. Now, one of the other reasons, the salt thing was very profound. I ended up doing. It just made me feel calm. There's a reason why they say salt baths are so calming. It's because they help calm your nerves, your muscles, the electrolytes. So I put the salt on for like 5 minutes and pray and do all this visualization. I imagine a sphere around me. I was imagining I was going through this rebirth process. I would say, I'm never going to quit again. I made deals with myself. And I knew I was finally going to quit if I could make it through the experience without dying, because I thought that I was going to die. And I even set things up so that, I told my ancestors, I told all the spirits that were with me at the time, because I could feel them, that I accept my death and I'm ready to go. If you guys need to take me, but if you'll give me one more chance, I promise you that I'll do something creative with this that can help others, and I'll make it through this, and I'll do something beneficial out of this. I'll turn this lead into gold, so to speak. I just wanted to throw the shower thing in there because that was the most effective thing for calming me, believe it or not. Some people might say, well, maybe you should take a bath. That may be calmer. No. The thing that was therapeutic about the shower was that it was warm, it was humid, it would clear my sinuses and allow me to breathe a little bit deeper. And by doing that, I did more deep breathing because I was breathing so shallow because of my fear. And the most important thing here about the shower, ladies and gentlemen, was that the noise of the shower water and the noise that the shower produced overrode my mind. I wasn't as in my head because of the sound of the shower. I couldn't hear my own thoughts. I mean, clearly I could hear my thoughts, but it wasn't like the accelerated thoughts when I was just in silence, which were horrible. So the shower was a warm, moist, humid place where I could go into the dark and close myself into the little shower that I had, close the glass door, and just let the water hit me. And that was the one place where I could find. That was like my battery charger of sorts. That's the one place where I could gather up the most beneficial thoughts that ended up overriding my negative thoughts, if that makes sense. It's like when I wasn't in the shower, things were much worse. Like the lights, everything was so vivid during my alcohol withdrawals. Everything was so intense. It's like the saturation on everything just got turned up. All the brightness, all the contrast. And it was just too much. It was like if it was too much for my eyes, it was too much for my mind. But in that shower, in that dark shower with that candle lit, I found some refuge because my mind wasn't as occupied by everything. It was like a world away from a world. It was like a cocoon. And I know that may sound silly, but it's just the truth. I'm sharing with you the truth of the experience. Oh, man. I would do a lot of grounding as well. I noticed that after I would take the showers, I would stay in the shower for like 40 minutes, no joke, sometimes an hour. Had a really good water heater that lasted a long time. And I was showering in filtered water. Right around right around when these experiences happened, I had got myself a brand new, really nice shower filter, and the water was super soft, and it just felt good. It was the one thing amongst all the insanity that I was going through that actually felt good. That goddamn shower felt so good mentally, emotionally, and physically, and even spiritually. I did tons of visualization work in there. It was just, I ended up doing tons of like salt scrubs. I would put essential oils in the salts that were associated with like growth, and I got kind of creative with my recovery on a spiritual level, because it was a spiritual problem. It was a self-induced issue that had spiritual implications. I hope that makes sense, the addiction thing. But after I'd get out of the shower, I would get this kind of calm effect that would last about an hour before it wore off, and then I would be back to hell. And I just sat in my room for weeks watching movies and recovering, trying to recover. All of this was going on during the hustle and bustle of the California day, people going in and out of the house, going to work, and I just felt pathetic sitting there in the middle of the day, it was horrible. Not being productive. It was, to this point it was the worst time of my life in terms of how I felt. I did a lot of reflecting. And I think that's one of the things that was so beneficial about the shower. It was like a reflection pod, but there was some comfort during it because of the way that the warm water calmed my muscles. I was so tense. I still am. I'm always so tense. Excuse me. But yeah, I found that interesting though. Like after the shower, like you get so loose, your sinuses get so clear. Like you can find some clarity in a shower because you can get some thinking done. It's like a world away from the hustle and bustle of life. And then, after my showers, I would make a green juice. I would go stand barefoot on the earth out back and do my grounding and my visualizations. I would stand in the backyard and imagine that the sun at midday was condensing into a laser kind of point in front of my liver, and then it was going into my liver and regenerating all of the dead or dying cells or damaged cells, excuse me. So, this went on for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. It took me a really long time to recover completely from alcohol, and there's still times where I catch myself thinking dark thoughts and having to evolve certain thought forms that were created from the trauma of these experiences, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Man, what a horrible time. The one thing that affected me the most after I got through once I realized that I wasn't going to die, once the delirium went away, it never really went away for months, let's put it that way, but it got to a point where I knew I wasn't going to die. It's like, okay, if I was going to die, I'd be dead already. I'm 2 weeks into this, and even though I still feel like shit, I'm going to make it. Where was I going with that? The worst thing that happened after the withdrawals is the depersonalization, the derealization, which is basically when you don't feel like yourself. You don't feel like your body and your mind are connected. You don't feel grounded. You feel like your mind and your body are in two different places at once, and so is your soul. You just don't feel gathered. And it's really difficult when you don't feel gathered, when you don't feel like everything's working properly in your mind and your body. When you feel that the two are disassociated, it makes even the most basic things so complicated. It makes communicating with people complicated. It makes, trying to hold a job down complicated. It makes just being happy in life complicated, because when you don't feel like yourself, when you feel like you're completely out of alignment, and I'm not just talking like maybe, you need some spark plugs redone. Your whole car is out of alignment, metaphorically speaking. The spark plugs need to be replaced. You need new seat belts. You need a new gauge cluster. You need a new transmission. The motor needs to be rebuilt. I'm talking about like rebuilding yourself from the ground up. When you actually get to a point where you feel like you're completely broken, it's very disassociating. And alcohol-induced disassociation, derealization, and depersonalization is a very common thing when people recover or quit drinking alcohol. For me personally, it was due to the massive amounts of trauma that I experienced on the spiritual levels and mental and emotional levels, as well as physical levels when I quit. Again, certain forms of hallucinations, when you actually feel like you're dying, can be really, really traumatizing. And those things just really burned engrams, which are like soul imprints, into my soul. And where the hell was I going with that? Excuse me. I just had deja vu. Been having that a lot lately. Where was I going with that, folks? I don't know. It's 55 minutes into the video. We should start wrapping it up, but we were talking about derealization. That is so terrifying. Let me see if I can find a definition really quick of derealization. Let's look up depersonalization first, folks. Yeah, depersonalization and derealization disorder is when you feel that you're observing yourself from outside your body and the things around you. The persistent feeling of observing yourself from outside one's body or having a sense that one's surroundings aren't real. It's horrible. Let's look up alcohol hallucinosis. Let's look up alcohol depersonalization first. Excuse me. Alcohol is not as strongly linked with a substance-induced depersonalization and derealization disorder as marijuana and hallucinogens are, but it can still cause the disorder. In high volumes, alcohol can trigger dissociative symptoms and even periods of dissociative amnesia. You know, this is true here, where it says that alcohol is not as strongly linked with a substance-induced depersonalization and derealization disorder as marijuana and hallucinogens are. Marijuana was one of the things, marijuana fucked me up royally. And I'll have to do videos about that in the near future. Marijuana, I'm so tired of people saying that, you know, marijuana is a medicine and that we need to use it all the time. Well, you know, medicines are things that you only take for short periods until you get better. Are you sick? Like, I understand that people with MS and certain medical disorders, they can benefit from marijuana, and in no way, shape, or form am I completely bashing marijuana, because I think it can be incredibly powerful and incredibly healing. But the way that it's used by the common culture is just blasphemous. It's so stupid. You disrespect this substance. I don't care if people have a problem with that. Smoking all the time is not good for your lungs. I know so many people who have they've been smoking for years and haven't quit. It's like, any substance like that, you really need to check yourself. And I'm not trying to be a tight ass, but there's substances out there that are so much better than marijuana for consistent use. Excuse me. Marijuana in small doses here and there can be incredibly healing, but it's not used properly by the common folk. Again, there are certain applications where it can be used frequently with massive benefit. But I know so many people who have their silly little marijuana cannabis cards and they just overuse it, and I'm self-medicating. Well, from what? Why are you sick all the time? Anyways, I'm going to do an entire marijuana video. And again, I don't need to hear it from people. People have heard me talk about marijuana in the past and said that, oh, you're just so against this stuff. No, I'm not. I've never said that. I'm against any form of behavior that is unbalanced and using it constantly all the time and living life to the point where you can't live without it. That's huge. That's imbalance, folks. There are certain states of consciousness that can be entered without using marijuana that supersede the efficacy of cannabis on a consistent basis. But that's besides the point. Let's stay on alcohol. Got a horn sticking up here. I just love you, ladies and gentlemen. I love everyone who watches these videos, and I hope that my messages can inspire you to do something beneficial with your health today. Make that appointment that you haven't done yet with a specialist so that you can get some recovery going. Contact me personally. Links are in the description box. If you need help with all this, I can give you guys hotline numbers. Call someone, reach out to someone who can help you. It's time to grow up. It's time to change. There's a lot of power in growing out of addictions. There's a lot of, you can achieve such great balance from transmuting your issues. As I've said earlier, and I've said in many of my videos, addictions and your problems in life can be great stepping stones for growth. I can't remember, but there's this particular flower that grows in like polluted water. I think it might be a lotus. I should know this. But there's this certain form of flower that grows in like this substrate or this liquid that is like just disgusting. And it's kind of an interesting metaphor of the fact that even out of waste, you can create something beautiful, and so can you. You are a beautiful human being. You have so much to offer the world. But you're going to be able to offer the world so much more if you get yourself to a point where you can do it without all the vices of addiction. Because addiction, ladies and gentlemen, are like shackles. Addiction, you can look at an addiction as a chain link wrapped around your goddamn ankle with one of those big balls, weighted balls at the end, like Marley from Scrooge. Go and watch that film, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already seen it, I don't care if it's not Christmas time yet. It's a tradition in my family to watch this movie every year. The Albert Finney Scrooge. It drops a lot of knowledge on you. Albert Finney, let me just give you guys a date. You can watch, it's on YouTube right now for free. The one for, I think it was 1970. Yeah, an hour and 54 minutes. Ebenezer Scrooge, Albert Finney, is the definition of a miser. He is rich but completely stingy with his money, and he exploits the good nature of his employee Bob Cratchit. On Christmas Eve, however, Scrooge is in store for a rude awakening when he is visited by the ghost of his old business partner, Jacob Marley, who informs him that he's going to be visited by 3 ghosts, including the ghosts of Christmas past and present. So that's much more than just a fucking Christmas movie. There was some serious symbolism there. It was about the journey of the soul, largely, ladies and gentlemen, and the fact that everything that you do has massive implications on not only your life and the rest of your life, but the people around you. If you are an alcoholic, if you're looking to recover, again, the first step is to seek professional medical attention, because I'm not a professional. I'm just like a lighthouse here. I'm trying to give you guys some hope on the tempestuous seas that you may be caught on if you're an addict. Trying to act as the lighthouse. Something to steer towards if you feel lost. Because if you're an addict, you are lost. What the hell was I getting at? If you're recovering from alcoholism, I just want to touch upon this really quickly because I get asked this all the time. Are there any herbs that you can take? Are there any specific supplements to consume, if you are recovering from alcoholism? And there are, and I'm only going to name probably 2 in this video, maybe 3, but there are many more. But this video is over an hour long right now, and I should make a video discussing this that's concise instead of making people listen for an hour before they hear this. But to keep things simple, the best herb, in my opinion, for the best 2 herbs, at least at this point, for liver regeneration are going to be schizandra berries and Gynostemma pentaphyllum. Schizandra is a profound liver tonic. It is a berry. It's known as the 5-flavored fruit. It contains sweet, sour, salty, pungent, and bitter flavors, and because of that, it stimulates, tonifies, and brings balance back to the 5 major organ systems in the traditional Chinese medicine system. They view the organ systems much differently than Western medicine, and within Chinese medicine, flavors stimulate certain parts of the body. So sweet, sour, salty, pungent, and bitter. Because of that, it's known as the 5-flavored fruit or berry. Schizandra is also known as schizandra or wu wajia in Chinese medicine, and it contains powerful constituents known as lignans that help the body heal. It has massive amounts of antioxidants, and it appears to be able to massively increase your body's ability to create glutathione, which is a powerful antioxidant, which is responsible for liver regeneration. I just recently talked about this on my Patreon page, but when I was going through my alcohol recovery process, I get like this when I speak for a long time. I start to slur my words, but I had liver inflammation that was horrible. I felt like my liver was going to pop. I could barely stand up or sit down without feeling incredibly uncomfortable. My liver swelled up massively, and I started using milk thistle extracts because I had read on the internet that they're so great. They do so much benefit. So I bought milk thistle extract. I bought milk thistle seeds, ground them into a powder, and drank them as a tea. It did nothing. In fact, when I started using the milk thistle extract, which is known as silymarin, Slymarin, silymarin is milk thistle extract. My liver got even worse, and I felt like I was going to destroy my liver. So not only was I paranoid about all the alcohol that I consumed, but I actually thought I was doing further damage with the milk thistle extract. Milk thistle only stimulates stage 1 liver detox. It does not stimulate and operate stage 1 and stage 2 liver detox like Schisandra does, and that's why Schisandra is in a world of its own. It's in a class of its own. It's an almighty liver tonic. In comparison to milk thistle, in my opinion, it blows it way out of the water. Milk thistle extracts for certain people can be incredibly dangerous, and you won't really find information about this because milk thistle is advertised and marketed as pretty much the main primary liver tonic in the West for Western herbalists. A lot of the herbs that Western herbalists use are dangerous in medicinal herbs. They're considered inferior herbs in the traditional Chinese medicine system. These are herbs that have a medicinal quality but shouldn't be consumed regularly because you shouldn't consume medicines on a daily basis if you're well. These are medicinal herbs, and I can't, milk thistle, it only stimulates stage 1 liver detox. It oftentimes leads to liver inflammation, especially when it's extracted. And if you dig into the different Reddit subreddits on herbalism, you'll find information similar to people talking about this. So it may work for some people, didn't work for me. Now, when I started consuming Schisandra, I noticed that my liver inflammation, the swelling went down almost immediately, and it did that consecutively until it went away. So that's how I know Schisandra works incredibly well, aside from the research that I've done on it and the experimentation. I just know it works well because I saw the benefits of me. My skin cleared up, the dark under my eyes went away, my liver swelling went down until it eventually went away. So Schisandra berry, incredible. It stimulates all 12 major meridian systems in the human body, stimulates the extraordinary channels. It actually has the ability to bypass into those extraordinary spiritual channels, and it brings balance back to the 3 treasures of Chinese healing: the Jing, the Shen, and the Qi, which is your spirit, your vitality, and your spirit. Basically, in layman's terms, I'm not going to get into all this Chinese medicine stuff in this video because it's incredibly complicated. But it stimulates the 3 primordial energies that make up your body and your mind and your soul, and when any of those are out of balance, there's a problem. So Schisandra pretty much does it all. It also goes into the 3 Dantian energy points in the cerebral spinal system and brings alignment to it. It has powerful pigments in it and colors. I always recommend that you grind it up into a powder. Never buy it in powdered form because it's laced with fillers and it's oftentimes crap. Buy Schisandra berries from Star West Botanicals, Frontier Herbs, or Dragon Herbs. There's also a distributor that I have in my Amazon store that has great product. But those berries are so fresh that I recommend drying them out before you try to grind them. Otherwise, it might destroy your coffee grinder. I grind the berries into a powder, and if you brew Schisandra with berries that aren't ground into a powder, it's completely different than the tea. If you grind the berries, you'll notice that the color of Schisandra that isn't ground up into powder is clear. You can see through it, and it's like this pinkish orange kind of color. But if you grind those berries, ladies and gentlemen, and then boil the tea, it'll become a grapefruit, beautiful pinkish orange kind of grapefruit color. It's a beautiful color. It's one of my favorite colors that you can't see through. It just becomes cloudy, and you just get so much more out of it. So the fact that it becomes cloudy and you can't see through it shows that you're getting more out of it, you're leaching more out of it. And when you grind the berry, you break open the cell walls and you unlock the power of the seeds. and more of the volatile and essential oils will come out of it. And Schizandra is amazing. I like to drink it ice cold. It's delicious. One of my favorite herbs. It mixes well with Gynostemma pentaphyllum, which is another great herbal tonic for the liver. It's a traditional Chinese both of these herbs, Schizandra and Gynostemma, are two of my favorites. I try to always have them on hand, and they are tonic herbs in the traditional Chinese medicine system. In the tonic herbs, there's about 27 of them, give or take, that they're superior herbs. They're foods. They're considered foods. They are not just medicinal herbs. They are safe enough, pretty much, not all of them, but most of them to consume on a regular daily basis. And they're in a league of their own. Things like longan fruit, lycium, also known as wolfberry or the goji berry, things like Schizandra, things like, astragalus, things like, I think it's called snow lotus. There's a handful of them. I'm not going to get into in this video, but they're powerful. They're safe. Milk thistle, in my opinion, is not safe. And I know that conflicts with a lot of the common beliefs, but the Western herbalism is a highly regulated system that's filled full of a bunch of bullshit. Western herbalism has some efficacy, but there's some serious problems in it because of the herbs that are being used. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, that's really where I recommend looking into those systems of healing if you're interested in any form of natural healing. Got an alert on my screen. Doesn't want to go away, but it's 11:11:11 right now on the screen. Should probably start wrapping this one up. So Gynostemma, it's also known as Jiaogulan, ladies and gentlemen. It's known as the poor man's ginseng. It's got ginsenosides in it, which are alkaloids. My cat's meowing. But it's considered poor man's ginseng because it contains a certain percentage of alkaloids in its physical matrix that are identical to ginseng. So Gynostemma, amazing. It's just incredible. It's anti-inflammatory. It's very nourishing and cooling to the system. It's also invigorating. It's very good for the lungs, and it's very good for the liver and the blood. So another thing that made a huge difference was Rethink Oil, which is a company. They create a capsulated form of oil of oregano, which is incredible. Those three particular constituents, along with Spring Dragon Longevity Teas, or Dragon Herbs, Spring Dragon Longevity Tea, goddammit, I can't speak right now. Those four things made a huge difference in my liver recovery. Oil of oregano is incredible, regardless of what people say about it being damaging to the liver. If you get good quality oil of oregano, it's going to help your liver. Rethink Oil is one of the best. So is the Telia oils is good. There's a handful of great ones, but I recommend don't skimp out on quality if you're going to get oil of oregano. Contact me if you can't afford those two companies that I talked about, and I'll help you pick one out. Rethink Oils, they make a capsulated one. They used to have it on Amazon. They don't anymore. You got to go to their website. Or Telia oils from Greece. That one's going to take a little bit longer to get here because it comes directly from Greece, from they harvest it in that particular region of the world. It's a very high quality product. There's also something known as P73 from North American Herb and Spice. It's known as oreganol. P73 is the strain of oregano. That's one of the best too, but do not buy it from Amazon because I bought one from Amazon and it was counterfeit. Buy it directly from NorthAmericanHerbandSpice.com. Oil of oregano should be in everyone's medicine cabinet. Everyone should oil of oregano. Read the book by Dr. Cass Ingram, The Cure is in the Cupboard. Oil of oregano is incredible. Oregano means joy of the mountain. It's been used as a medicine for hundreds of years. It's a profound mental tonic as well. It's very anti-inflammatory. It wreaks havoc on negative microorganisms within the gastrointestinal system. So that pretty much wraps it up, ladies and gentlemen. There is no magic solution to addiction recovery other than the magic that you can summon within your heart to change. You know what you're doing is wrong if you're an addict. You know that you need to change for the better, and you have the ability to do it. Contact me if you need to, but don't underestimate the power that you have within yourself to change right now without needing my help. Watch my videos. If you have a question, feel free to reach out and ask me in my comments, my email, you name it. But don't underestimate the power that you have to answer your own questions, because you already know what to do. You're just repressing it, because that's what we do. We play tricks on ourselves because of the grasp that the ego has on our minds. It damages clarity. Watch Scrooge 1970 with Albert Finney as homework if you're interested. You watch it for free. What do you have to lose? It might be a boring film to you, but there's a lot of symbolism in it. Also watch the 1981 version of Clash of the Titans, not the new nonsense that's just pure CGI and theatrics. The story was horrible. Go and watch the old movies are where you're going to find the most symbolism. A lot of the new movies are purely political and they have an agenda. But the 1981 version of Clash of the Titans is very symbolic as well. He goes through this experience where he pretty much he has to get all his power back, and he's got to fight off all these negative forces so that he can reach where he wants to be. There's a lot of symbolism in this stuff, and just homework for people who are interested. Oftentimes it can be really beneficial and motivating to have some type of symbolic story to relate to when you're going through these recovery processes. What else can I say? I just want to overemphasize the fact that no one's going to be able to just magically heal you. You're the only one that can heal yourself, and it requires a lot of effort to be sober. You have to realize a lot of things that a lot of people, you have to come to certain conclusions that are only reached when you come to certain realizations, and most of those realizations people repress because they don't want to acknowledge them. They don't want to come to terms with the fact that they need to quit. They like their vice. They like having something that they can lean on that makes them feel temporarily comfortable in social situations, or maybe you have a group of friends that always expects you to drink. People like their crutch. Sobriety requires you to separate yourself from a lot of things that are holding you back. Becoming sober requires you to let go of a lot of things that may feel comfortable at the time. It may require you to let go of certain friendships. It may require you to, quit your job for a while, or to stop being a part of the scene that you're currently in. So what it comes down to is you've got to learn to you're going to have to learn to realize what it's going to take to quit and then embrace it. And I know so many people won't, and that's so sad. And so many people won't because of the stress that they have in their lives and the temporary relief that they get from the substances that they abuse. That's one of the motivating factors to why people abuse drugs and alcohol. It's because of stress, ladies and gentlemen. It's also because of guilt, and guilt drives depression, and depression drives addiction. It's also due to the fact that a lot of people are just bored with life. They feel like they're not on their path, and getting high and getting drunk and whatnot can just make life seem more exciting. Excuse me. And some people just like to get high. Some people just like to get blown out of their mind on alcohol, cocaine, and things like that. But there's certain forms of addiction that are great. I'm not saying that you can't ever have a cigarette again. I'm not saying that you can't, you have to be this person that's afraid of everything and lives in the ivory tower. No. The people who are truly afraid and live in the ivory tower are the people who stay addicted, because they can't do anything. They're stuck in that pattern. Don't think that you wanting to quit makes you some, just uptight prude or whatnot. Or, a square. You're not. The people who are square are the people who live inside of a box, and that box is driven by their addictions. You are a free person when you let go of your addictions. But there's good things that you can become addicted to as well. You can get addicted to ashwagandha. You can get addicted to adaptogens like Shazandra. You can get addicted to running. Get addicted to going to sweat lodges and having mystical experiences in the sweat lodge. You can get addicted to a lot of things. The natural release of endorphins. Your body has a lot of endogenous chemicals in it that are waiting to please you if you learn to master your breathing and master your life. The highs that your body can produce naturally supersede the highs that substance abuse can 10,000-fold. I hope that makes sense. But we were never taught this in school. We were never taught this in the public full system, also known as the public education system, which is nothing more than a mind control facility, which teaches you how to chase money and be stressed. And what do you do when you're stressed? Well, many people have a drink. Hibiscus. Drink that instead of your disgusting wine and all the other shit. Excuse me. All the power to you if you're the type of person that can have a glass of wine once a week, but I'm not that type of a person. And some of us, people will sometimes say, there's balance in this, bro. You should just be able to have a drink every once in a while. Achieve balance. Well, everybody's different, and for some of us, the path of balance is attained through abstinence. Not all forms of balance require weighing one thing against the other and just having, a 50-50, you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You can still drink and do all this other stuff. Well, that's fine if you're one of those people. I'm not one of them. If I have one drink, I want the entire 6-pack. And when the 6-pack's over, I better have access to a bottle because I'm going to want to drink more because I want to keep this party going. I want to keep the booze in my veins. Balance to me is attained through abstinence. Unadulterated abstinence, folks, from alcohol and from things like tobacco too. Tobacco, I struggled, but when I quit drinking alcohol, there was a period where I quit smoking too because I thought that the added burden on my liver was going to accelerate my potential death. That I thought I was going to die. So I quit smoking for a while. But once I realized I wasn't going to die, I started smoking again, and I continued to smoke for quite a while after I quit drinking alcohol. At the time, I thought, okay, well, if I'm not drinking, I can have this, and it was something to lean on. When I had, my first cravings and whatnot, I would just be like, okay, I'm going to smoke some tobacco, and this is fine. And I did the same with pot for a while, too, before I quit that. And that's a whole different, story that I could talk about, my cannabis addiction, which really affects the mind in a negative way. And most people who smoke a lot won't realize that until they try to quit. Once people who smoke a lot of weed try to quit for more than a year, they'll realize how much it affects their mind. It's easy to live under the smokescreen of cannabis when you're constantly smoking it. And I don't need to hear shit from people. Oh, I've been smoking for over 6 months and 1 year and I haven't had any problems with it. Well, quit for a month and see what happens. Quit for 2 months. Can you even do that? Quit for 6 months and see where your memory is. To wrap things up, I want to repeat myself because repetition of a message constitutes mental programming. And in a world full of insanity, I want to help program your mind in a beneficial way. I want to give you a few gems or some tidbits of information that you can take with you and do something beneficial with. I want to remind you that you have the ability to change your life for the better, and that you are the only one stopping yourself. You have the keys within you to unlock your greatest potential. There's going to be some painful things that you've got to process, though, if you are a severe alcoholic, a severe drug addict. When you do these things, ladies and gentlemen, you create a schism between your rational mind and your irrational mind. You create a huge gap between your mature higher self and your lowest self. And because when you're an addict for so long, you stimulate the lower mechanisms of the mind, it can make the division between you and your higher self appear so vast that you don't know how to begin to embrace the walk towards being your higher self. You're going to have to acknowledge the pain and just continue or just let go. Excuse me. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at how the way that the previous sentence just came out. You're going to have to learn to let go of... you know what? I'm going to wrap this one up. What I'm trying to get at is that the more you engage in a negative action, the more you stimulate the lower mechanisms of the mind, and the more you dwell in the land of the bottom feeder. And the longer you dwell there, the harder it is to get out of that and to do the right thing, because these habits, these patterns of lower thinking and lower actions and addiction, they create certain patterns, and patterns become muscle memory. Muscle memory drives addiction. To break out of addictions, you're going to have to break through your muscle memory. You're going to have to learn how to escape what you're currently doing, and that requires your effort and your desire. It all comes down to distilling your desire to become a better and healthier you. Because without that passion, without that flame of intensity of you wanting to change, you will not be able to start the fire that is required to create the blazing inferno of you changing. You, like the phoenix, can rise out of the ashes and become a completely different person. And I hope that this video has benefited you in some way. I love you with all my heart. I hope the best for you. And I know that you have the ability to become a much happier you. And I want to see you do it. Contact me and let me know how you're doing. And until next time, peace be with you. I wanted to personally thank you for watching my videos and contributing to the growth of my channel. I could not do this without you, and your interest in my content is truly what motivates me and fuels my passion for making these videos and spreading my message. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wanted to remind you that this channel is a free educational tool that is listener supported, and if you would like to donate to my channel and donate to my cause, help make my life a little bit easier and help keep the lights on around here, you can do so by checking out the links in the description box below. There's a handful of not only ways to donate to my channel, but I also have links to different websites and different videos of mine, as well as my Amazon store, where you can check out a plethora of different health-related products that I use and recommend. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your continued interest in my message, and until next time, peace be with you all.